So David, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you, George.
So I guess the first question to start is, can you give us a little bit of background on Ineo?
Sure. So Ineo is a company that has a proprietary mobility assignment management platform. It means we have a technology that tracks the accounting and tax implications of relocation. Now, when Ineo was founded, relocation was the term that was used when multinational and or multi-jurisdictional corporations decided to move employees from one particular location to another particular location. Over the last 20 years, relocation evolved into mobility. And so the basic process that we happen to be extremely well versed and experienced in is in helping companies manage the costs and the tax compliance pieces of corporate relocation.
Why did you decide to sell with Jonas?
It's a great question, and there's a number of reasons. Primarily, I would say that our dealings with them were very direct. My partners and I worked with Matt Achit at Group 122. The transparency, communication was very, very effective. Their level of interest in what we did and understanding what we did and wanting to support that journey and that growth, I think was a huge part of our decision. It was the right fit. There were times where maybe it was going to happen and maybe it wasn't, but it was just really the right fit, and the success that Jonas had, that secret sauce of doing this over and over again. And the fact that Jonas's track record with buying companies and keeping them and not flipping them and not trying to amalgamate a string of entities that may or may not work together. And we now have the backing, the discipline, diligence, reporting, and other metrics and tools to use to improve both our operational efficiency, our operational profitability. Because of COVID, we never ever had a single face-to-face meeting, not once. To this date, I have never met anybody face-to-face, but yet work with a number of these people on an epically regular basis and have developed a great relationship with them. That says a lot when you can conduct a transaction like this and get it done. And here it is now, almost a year. We're just coming up on a year later, and we're still rolling. And so it really was absolutely the right opportunity for us.
And can you describe your experience with the pre-acquisition process?
If I think of analysis, it was a decathlon. It takes time from your very first, introductory conversations to where things sort of accelerate, decelerate. You're dealing with one level of analysis one day. So I think of a decathlon, you're throwing a shot, but then you're picking up a javelin. Now you're running the hurdles. Now you're doing a sprint. Now let's run 13 miles. And so you get that whole variety of experience from the standpoint of there's a lot of analysis and a lot of discussion and a lot of verification and challenging of the information. And while you're doing that, you're then trying to size up, is this the right opportunity for us? Are we at the right level? Are the terms, the deal, does it all work? And oh, by the way, you still need to run your growing, evolving business.
So let's move a little bit forward now. So can you describe life at Ineo after the Jonas acquisition in terms of the people, the products, the services, et cetera?
Because we wanted to create this entity of perpetuity, transaction happens, then there's the initial transition of onboarding everybody into a much larger organization and, all the infrastructure changes and whatnot. You go in and you have to be able to understand that there's going to be some change, but that overall it's, a positive experience. And here we are, and we're still rolling and doing what we do. I think that's a big part of it, is because Jonas lets their companies act with a lot more independence / autonomy from the standpoint of business as usual versus we weren't integrated with 4 different companies and now we're sharing a CTO and a CPO and we have different, all these different pieces. We do what we do with the people that did what we did before, but yet have better tools and resources and are able to step into some larger opportunities because we've got the backing of a company like Jonas. To be acquired by a company with this track record, we consider that quite an accomplishment, quite frankly, and we're proud of that.
So you mentioned autonomy, which brings me to my next point. At Jonas, we often talk about our ABC model, which is autonomy, so our decentralized operating model, buy and hold forever, which allows us to invest for the long term. And then lastly, our culture sharing best practices. So, learning from the Jonas or Constellation family of software companies. So, how is your experience aligned with these three differentiators?
Um, my experience has triangulated very well with these. All of my partners, we've all been serial entrepreneurs. We did what we needed to do when we thought we needed to do it, and whatever the result was, we owned it one way or another. And in this particular case, there, the autonomy and the ability to run the business and to still own that has been very important. I work very closely with some of the Group 122 leadership. At one point, it was almost on a daily basis, and it's certainly on a multi-weekly basis. And the ability, when you bring something up and somebody says, you know what, I know where I've seen this before. And it's been extremely helpful to be able to go out to someone and say, give me your experience with an outsourced CSO. Give me your experience with an outsourced marketing firm, or tell me what you think about, hosting here or there. And so, whereas before we were sort of on our own. So the autonomy to act on, what we need, with the ability to garner input, and sometimes input that is actually contradictory to maybe what we might have thought. And so that at times helped us navigate, particularly through some, epically challenging times with COVID. And so the autonomy, and then yet the ability to acquire knowledge from best practices, has been, a positive experience for sure.
What tips and advice would you give to a business owner thinking of selling their software company?
I think number one is to consider, holistically, what does this mean for your business, your life's work, the team that helped build that life's work, and then the clients that you serve. We had some clients that maybe were concerned that we would be acquired by one of their competitors. We had other clients that maybe wanted to be that acquirer. And in this particular case, for us to go to a completely neutral acquisition that was going to be good for every client and hopefully for every employee. I mean, that's how you like to think of it. Of course, some people, you'll have some transition. We've had some, but in these day and age, that would be one way or another without an acquisition. And so when you put all those ingredients into that incredibly large decision process, you really have to provide that weight to all of those factors because they're interrelated for the success of it.